It was only a couple days ago that we dropped our Shohei free agency speculation video. We talked about the Rangers, Dodgers, and Giants being interested in acquiring the two-way superstar that is Shohei Ohtani. But in recent days, we got some more updates. So Jeff Passan saying that the Red Sox may be a team that's interested in getting involved in Shohei. And then John Morosi is having a counter report saying that the Braves are including themselves in the Shohei sweepstakes.
Yes, the classic. We're getting other teams involved to drive up the bids on the teams that are actually interested in signing Shohei Ohtani. Because didn't we say in our last Shohei Ohtani video that Ohtani has been pretty clear behind the scenes that he doesn't want to go to an East Coast team? Like Boston and Atlanta, last time I checked, they're out there in the AL and NL East. I know they're not technically on the coast, but that's pretty far east. I don't think Ohtani's going to either of those places. Why would he go to Boston? Boston is just fired their general manager. They're last place in the American League East. And I did say Ohtani would sign with, of those places that we mentioned earlier, the one that would throw the most money at him. Like Boston would have to, I know it's crazy because it's the Boston Red Sox. The Boston Red Sox would probably have to pay a premium in order to lure Shohei Ohtani to play for their franchise, because Boston is not in a position to sign them. The Atlanta Braves, this feels like a classic case of like the Braves are getting involved so that their fan base doesn't get mad at them for sitting out the Ohtani sweepstakes, because I don't think Atlanta has seriously bid on any major free agent in this entire Alex Anthopoulos regime that they've had going on here. So, I mean, we'll see what ends up happening between those teams, but Dodgers and Rangers makes all the sense in the world. I know it's strategically left out your San Francisco Giants from the bidding, but Dodgers and Rangers seem to be the two places. And I believe when they asked general managers at that general managers meeting that got canceled because everyone got sick, I believe it was like 11 out of 14 people they asked said that Ohtani was going to end up with the Dodgers in their expert opinion. So it seems like this is moving in the direction of Dodgers and Rangers potentially being the two teams in the Ohtani game.
Well, again, you mentioned it. The idea of Shohei playing on a team that plays in the Eastern Standard Time, that was one of those things that we were told very early on in Shohei's free agency process, that he would not have any desire to play for a team that plays on the East Coast. However, with the Rangers rumor, it did seem like the boundaries of that were getting extended. Obviously, talking about Central Standard Time versus Eastern Standard Time, we're talking about just a 1 hour time difference. And I know a lot of people make the argument, well, hey, if he plays on the West Coast, that's closer to Japan if he ever wants to go home. Well, he's not going home throughout the course of the season. He's not flying all the way to Japan throughout the course of a 162 game baseball season. So I feel as though we should kind of start letting that one go in a respect, because he's going to be making a lot of money. If he wants to, like during the offseason, buy a vacation home in LA and then fly home to Japan as much as he wants over the course of the offseason, he's going to be more than free to do that. During the course of the season, it's not like he's taking that, I don't know, what is it, 10-hour plane ride back to Japan either way. So I don't think that that's as much of an issue as it's been made. I think the bigger issue for him is ultimately going to be the winning element. Now, the Red Sox you mentioned, it's a little bit of a mess. They have some pieces you like maybe Trevor Story can figure it out again. Obviously, Rafael Devers is still in that lineup. Verdugo, Yoshida, they have some players on that team. It's not completely doom and gloom from a roster standpoint. There was even points last year where they were looking semi-competitive, but the AL East is a loaded division at the end of the day. When it comes to the Braves, though, if you want to talk about winning, the Braves were incredible last season until we got to the playoffs. And if you're the Braves, you mentioned you not want to make your fans disappointed. They were talking World Series. They thought they were going to be a lock to be in the World Series. Hell, when we talked baseball last year in the midway point of the season, you're like, we might as well just pencil in the Braves into the NLCS or put it in pen, actually. And it didn't happen. So I feel as though the Braves, maybe Shohei would be a bit ambitious, but I don't think it's inconceivable that they should really try and be putting themselves into the sweepstakes, because think about that lineup. MLB Game Day actually put up their potential lineup if they got Shohei. Ronald Acuna, Ozzie Albies, Riley, and Shohei batting cleanup. Yeah, you can mix around that order as much as you want, but that would be one of the most insane starts to a lineup in the MLB, and even the rest of their starting lineup is great too. But that would feel like almost a guaranteed 10 runs a game.
Juju, you didn't even include the 5-hitter on this team who hit 50 damn home runs last season in Matt Olson. That would be ridiculous. Again, the Braves as an organization have never been in on the big free agents. What's the thing we also say about the Braves? They re-sign all of the guys, and they are all on like really affordable contracts for some weird reason. Like Albies is like $7 million a year. Cunha makes $100 million over 8 years. Austin Riley's the big guy with $200 million over 12 years. Like, they have gotten great value on what was the best lineup in baseball last year. And from a baseball sense standpoint, it does make sense for them to get in on the Ohtani game. They need to do something, right? I mean, what was it that their manager said? They were built for regular season, but not built for playoffs. And they got to figure out how to build for the playoffs. And they've lost to the Phillies each of the last 2 years, a team that I guess is better positioned for playoff baseball, whatever that means. But I guess it makes sense there. And I think that's why Texas is in the game. Like, it makes too sense for Ohtani to go to Texas from a baseball standpoint. We talked about this last week. One, as he recovers from his rehab, they need bullpen help. If Ohtani converts to this hybrid, like 7th, 8th, 9th inning, long-term reliever type of experiment from the bullpen, Texas is the perfect place for that to potentially come together. Texas is the franchise that's willing to spend money like nobody's business. I mean, from a money standpoint, there's the income tax situation, which is a little misleading because you pay taxes based on the state that you play the game in. So it's only like 80 of the games a year would his paychecks be tax deductible. But besides the point, like, Texas is in this unique position where it makes a lot of baseball sense, where they have openings at the designated hitter position. They can use him as a hybrid relief role, and they have ridiculous amounts of money to throw at Shohei Ohtani. And, oh, by the way, they just won the World Series this last season. So, like, from a baseball standpoint, I understand why Texas is now in this game and why Ohtani would consider them. If he doesn't want to go to the East Coast and he doesn't want to go to the East Coast and he's interested in the Dodgers or the Giants or teams on the West Coast and making $600 million potentially on this contract, it's a weird match between them and the Braves. It seems like a weird fitting that they're trying to force together, and maybe money talks at the end of it, but I would be confused. I wouldn't even say shocked. I would be confused if Ohtani pivots and goes to the Braves at the end of all this, when everything we've been hearing is Dodgers and Giants and potentially Texas and Seattle wanting to get involved. It would be a little bit strange if at the end of all of this, he ended up with the Atlanta Braves, a team that could use him.
Yeah.
Granted, any team could use Ohtani, but one that we hadn't really thought was Ohtani's interest.
So now that we've seen a couple East Coast teams, and the Braves and the Red Sox, especially the Red Sox, get involved in this, does this open the floodgates for us to see more of the notorious names that consistently get involved in these types of free agent races, like the Yankees and the Mets? The Mets, I mean, obviously you want to keep them away from the Braves, and you had last season's catastrophe happen. For the Yankees, you could always sell them on that short right field porch, right?
Yeah, I think because of how much of a disaster last year's Yankee teams are, I don't think they're in the game for Ohtani at this point. I'm dumbfounded that the Cubs haven't leaked that they're interested yet. Like, the Cubs seem like the classic team to be like, hey, we're going all in on Shohei Ohtani. Like, the Cubs are that team that you always are just like, hey, it's time for the Cubs to throw $500 million at someone, or at least like pretend like they're interested. Like, I'm shocked the Cubs haven't put a bid in yet on Shohei Ohtani. But yeah, I mean, everyone should be trying to get involved, or at least gauging interest. Hell, Tampa should be trying to get involved here. I know they don't spend money, but they got it. Like, hell, your team is like right on the precipice of like either falling out of contention in the AL East or continuing to compete with the Baltimores and the Torontos and the Yankees of the world. Like, yeah, all these teams should be trying to get involved in Ohtani in some way, shape, or form. I just don't think Ohtani has to take their calls. I mean, you can submit a bid, but if it's just going to be money, that's the only way I think he's going to get interested. He's been pretty clear about what he wants in free agency.
You know what? Let's create a social media superstar team and let's put them on the Reds. Let's talk about them as dark horse. Let's get Ellie De La Cruz and Shohei Ohtani in the same lineup together. If we're going to be talking about real dark horse contenders, now let's get back into the real reporting. I do want to say, you mentioned it, you alluded to it earlier. Jeff Passan leaving out the Giants on his potential list, and Jeff Passan, obviously a trusted voice in the baseball community. What do you think of the Giants? Is he already starting to set it up for, yeah, the Giants are going to be in on this?
I have seen it too many times where the Giants have been used as leverage for other teams, man. Like the Giants don't want to spend that money. The Giants don't want to spend that money on a single player. And I know they did it with Carlos Correa and then backed out because of the medical situation. But like the Giants don't want to spend that kind of money, man. It's not going to happen for San Francisco. I told you from the beginning, it's not going to happen for San Francisco. I've seen this movie too many times. I've seen this leverage being played against them too many times. It's not going to happen. Man, if Shohei Ohtani were there for the Giants to have at that point, and it was like 10 years, $500 million, Ohtani's interested, this is what he's looking at, the Dodgers would just throw $50 million on top of their offer just out of spite, man. Like the I know I'm being like facetious with this. This isn't actually how baseball negotiations work, but like the Dodgers are not going to be outbid for Ohtani over the Giants. Like the Dodgers have more money than the Giants. The Dodgers have more financial investment in their current team than the Giants do, which is not a deterrent for the Dodgers. Remember, that regional television contract is just pooling in money for the Dodgers. They can go into the tax level. This is why they moved off of Trey Turner. This is why they moved off of Bellinger. This is why they moved off of Justin Turner, was for this reason, so that they can now invest in a team that in 2024 is potentially good. They're already guaranteed 100 wins every season. How about we take the next step and get back to 105? How about we get the number 1 seed again? I just don't see a world where the Dodgers are going to look up at whatever the Giants are bidding for Ohtani and say, yeah, that's too rich for our blood, especially for a player that they actively want, because they didn't want Aaron Judge when he was a free agent last year. It was between the Yankees and the Giants, because the Yankees and the Giants were the two teams Judge would consider in the first place. If Ohtani's willing to consider them, and they clearly are interested in Ohtani, I don't think there's a world where the Dodgers are going to get beat on this versus the Giants. I've seen the story too many times. I've seen it too many times with this San Francisco Giants ownership group.
Jon Heyman, Jon Morosi, and Jeff Passan have all weighed in. The list is currently Braves, Giants, Dodgers, Rangers, Red Sox. Where do you think Shohei Ohtani ends up this coming season? Leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on all our social medias. From Juju and Kyle, stay safe, happy, and healthy. We'll see you next time.